Why don't you print a 10, 20 more and put them out?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we are live.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know what it is. It's that second Wednesday of the month. I'd like to welcome you to Conversations with the Mayor, our monthly series where we try to let you know in terms of what's happening across the great city of Pontiac. My name is Mark S. Lee, and I'm your host, and also co-hosted with Mayor Deirdre Waterman. And what we want to do today is to spend some time and give you an update and talk about resources, certainly as part of the American Recovery Act. And we'll spend a few minutes going through that today. Before we get started, two things. I would ask you to mute yourself as you join, and also to stop your video if you're not a participant as well. This is being recorded, and this is also being recorded across all the social media channels and across the city of Pontiac, and watch on YouTube and other social media platforms. And this is airing live on Facebook Live. So to all of you watching on Facebook Live, say hello. I hope you're having a great day on this beautiful sunny day, absolutely stunning day outside. And for those of you potentially affected by those severe storms again last night, we certainly hope that your power is getting back up and running very quickly if it hasn't already. So we're always thinking about you. All right, at this point in time, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A in the chat room, and we'll make sure we address those questions towards the end, starting about 1:25 or so. We'll have Q&A. But in the meantime, I'd like to welcome Mayor Deirdre Waterman. Mayor, good afternoon, and thanks for joining me again for another thoughtful conversation on resources, allocation of resources across Pontiac.
Mark, and thank you for being once again here in Pontiac, virtually as it were. Lots of exciting things coming in, and we are actually less than 2 weeks, 13 days to be exact, countdown to the launch of Motor Bella right here in the city of Pontiac. So that's generating some excitement. It's going to bring, we think, maybe more than 100,000 visitors to Pontiac. So we're eagerly preparing for that to give them a good welcome and all the things that this year's rendition of the North American International Auto Show will bring to Pontiac. So there are the things that are even as equally as exciting, I won't say more exciting, as Motor Bella coming to Pontiac is the fact that we now have the American Rescue Plan dollars, 37.7 million allotment in total that's coming to Pontiac, $18.8 million of which we have in our city treasury right now as of June 21st. So it's a good thing to be allotted this money, this one-time money that to be supplied for COVID relief, things that we want to use for our strategic priorities, such things as neighborhood revitalization, citizen relief, increasing our infrastructure, repairs and renovations, starting the infrastructure to build a smart city as broadband becomes increasingly important, all the things that brings to our citizens, increasing our public safety. Public safety is much in the news, very important for us with all the initiatives that have gone forth. So those are some of the strategic priorities. And as this money came into town, I wanted to make sure that our citizens had a chance to be engaged in the conversation about how this money is spent. And I've also proposed to council that after we get the citizen engagement, to all the council members, all the people running for office are invited to come and share and how Pontiac should go forward with expenditure of this money and how we leverage this money. So we have some guest panelists here to talk about that. I'm going to talk about a couple of initiatives that we've already brought forward for council's consideration. And at the end of this period, when we're going to have a period of town halls, we are announcing the dates for those as it's going forward, and we're bringing forward experts to come to them throughout the city. So our citizens have a chance to voice their opinion and give us their idea of their projects that they want us to do with this money. So as we go forward, I'm going to be happy to introduce our first guest panelists today.
Absolutely, right ahead.
And they are from Baker Tilly, a very important company that does with the public accounting and other city support services. We have engaged Baker Tilly to help with this grants department that we're going to install as Pontiac now is seeking out to get more grant funding from the many foundations and other nonprofits that are looking to help cities achieve their benefit as a thriving city. So we're certainly in that category. And we have both Monique Caston, as well as Caitlin Humrickhouse. I hope I said that correctly. Caitlin, I come close? Okay. And they're going to talk about first, as we have this American Rescue Plan money, we have, of course, guidelines, federal government money, and they're going to talk about the guidelines. You know, there's certain eligible activities that you can spend it on. So they're going to give us first instruction and education on how the government will instruct us to use that and give people ideas about how the money can be used. Part of this that we've introduced with the city and house, we have, if you bring that up on the screen for me now, Ken, as we share that. In the city, we've developed a what we call a frequently asked questions tutorial. And that is from a previous town hall when we talked about hosting this particular event. And then Ken, the next slide. We'll show you the frequently asked questions guide that we put out that's available throughout our city distribution sites as well as on our own website. And these are frequently asked questions to give you an overview of eligible uses, restrictions on uses, and other parameters. So that's available to all of our citizen stakeholders who want to have your own tutorial. But what's even better is that we both have Baker Tilly, Monique, and Caitlin who are on site, and they're going to give us an in-person tutorial of what's available on this sheet. So if you would start to do that for us with your own tutorial and slideshow, and then we'll follow that with our next expert presenter who's going to talk about how this all pertains to Pontiac.
And before we have Baker Tilly speak, I just want to, again, if you have any questions, just please drop them in the chat room and we will answer those questions towards the end of this discussion this afternoon. You either email me directly through the chat or just drop them in the chat room. Thank you, Mayor. Go ahead with the introduction, please.
Monique and Caitlin, I give you the floor.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor. And while Monique gets this going, I just say thank you for having us this afternoon. And I am a director in our public sector consulting practice, and Monique is a consulting manager, and we're both working with the city on, as the mayor mentioned, a grants management project. Monique, you can go to the next slide here. So why Baker Tilly? Baker Tilly is one of the largest public sector accounting firms in the country. And Monique, you can skip to our next slide here. Our public sector team has over 3,000 clients across the US. We have over 400 people dedicated to this industry. And we've been working with local government for over 85 years. So we really live and breathe local government. We're very passionate about it. And most importantly, we understand the important work being done by our local government professionals and their community partners. Monique and I are both in our public sector advisory practice. So our goal is to really help governments effectively manage their operations. So how do they do more, provide more value to citizens with the limited resources that they have? Specific to the city of Pontiac, we're working with the city to achieve an effective and robust grants management function, which really enables the city to successfully win and manage grant funds that align with your strategic priorities as a city. So bringing more dollars, valuable dollars to the city of Pontiac to do projects that are going to help the community. Monique, you can go on to the next slide here. And so, you know, Monique's going to talk in a minute here about the specifics of the American Rescue Plan Act, but as it relates to our work with our clients, we've been fortunate since the beginning of the pandemic to work with our clients to understand how they can spend this money, what are eligible uses of it. And then also it can be difficult to spend this amount of money in a limited time, right? You want to make sure that you're doing important projects, meaningful projects, and that you're in compliance with federal regulations. So we're helping our clients implement technology solutions to make that happen, project managing those important projects, and really helping to make sure that the community members feel the impact of this once in a lifetime money that has come to our local governments. So I'll turn it over to Monique to talk about the specifics of the act.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. So as been mentioned previously, my name is Monique Caston, and I too work with Baker Tilly within our public sector advisory team. So what I'm going to provide you with a high-level overview of is the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. So we're going to talk briefly about the fiscal recovery funds and eligible expenditures as well. So what you may or may not know is that back in March of 2021, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act. This was actually the third COVID relief funding package that was released as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And through the American Rescue Plan, approximately $350 billion has been made available in non-competitive funding for states, counties, cities, tribes, and territories. So of this $350 billion, $195.3 billion has been allotted for states and Washington, D.C., $130.2 billion has been allotted for local governments, and $20 billion has been allotted to tribal governments as well. So in addition to this funding from the fiscal recovery funds, there have been other provisions that have been made as well as a part of this law. And that includes $10 billion in recovery funds for capital projects, nearly $170 billion for schools, $25 billion in emergency rental assistance for housing, $22 billion in EIDL and PPP loans, which I know many of us have heard about at this point, for small businesses, $58.2 billion for transportation infrastructure, $4.5 billion for energy and water and household assistance, $25 billion specifically for restaurants and bars. Emergency Connectivity Fund has allotted $7.6 billion as well to assist with internet access and distance learning, and $72 billion for public health initiatives as well for things such as contact tracing and vaccine distribution. So, of course, with federal funding, you have something that's eligible in terms of expenditures and what's ineligible, and certain recipients that can receive this funding. So fiscal recovery funds can be used for a couple of different areas, which we have here on the screen with caveats, of course. So funding can be used towards revenue recovery, individual assistance, business assistance, economic development, public facilities and schools, transportation, infrastructure, regional collaboration, and also not-for-profit assistance. Several of these are what the mayor mentioned earlier on in our call today. Now, what are ineligible expenditures of the fiscal recovery funds? Well, those would be debt services, any cuts to local taxes, and also pension or rainy day funds. These are areas where this particular set of funding cannot be used for. So just to give you an overview of the timeline and where we are today and where we're going, again, as I mentioned, in March of this year, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan. In June, the tribal community, they experienced a couple of different deadlines when it came to actually submitting their information in the Treasury portal to receive their funding, and also to provide some updated statistics as it relates to employment as well. But where I want us to go to is December 31st of 2024. So in those FAQs that the mayor has released, it also states that December 31st, 2024 is the deadline for all entities to actually obligate the fiscal recovery funds. But that doesn't mean that's the deadline for those funds to be expended. The deadline for all fiscal recovery funds to be expended is 2 years later, December 31st, 2026. So now's a great time to be in that planning stage to determine what the funding will be used for. And that brings us to these town hall meetings that the mayor has scheduled. So one of the mayor's primary goals is to receive feedback from members of the community of Pontiac to have conversations around what are some of your funding priorities. So some areas for you to consider as you think about just the brief overview that we provided today. What's best for your community? You have revenue recovery, an area where eligible expenditures can occur. Infrastructure, are there buildings that need to be enhanced or improved upon? Public facilities, economic development, non-for-profits that need assistance, possibly individual assistance as well. You have small businesses that might need assistance, and also regional collaboration. So today's goal for us to provide this overview for you is to get your minds working, to begin thinking about areas that you think you'll need funding so you can see improvements in your community. So remember, just again, before spending, there is time to have that conversation, to have those thoughts to come about. Again, local governments and tribes, they have until December 31st of 2024 to actually obligate the American Rescue Plan fiscal recovery funds. So consider what needs to be done in the community. Consider what collaborations you think might need to be held across different departments, different nonprofits, et cetera. And then maximize any available funding opportunities that will be available from those other ARP provisions that I mentioned a bit earlier. There are ways to capitalize and really leverage dollars across the board to really build out what you need. So take the time now to broadly consider and strategize what your needs are for your community so you can really make the best use of this funding.
Yeah.
And with that, I call it an end.
Real quick question. Thank you, Monique and Caitlin. Before we proceed in the chat room, will these slides be made available to everyone? Mayor, I will defer to you in that response regarding the slides. And you unmute yourself, Mayor. There you go.
This presentation in its entirety will be available through all the social media outlets that you just mentioned, be available for rebroadcast on our cable station, as well as on our YouTube channel. It'll be available, as well as we can put the slides up on our website, so they're available to people.
Okay. One other question just popped in before we proceed. And the reason I'm answering questions here for this part of the presentation, this is germane, so timing fits in. Would it be possible to use some of the funds for a business startup incubator?
I can take that one.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Certainly, projects related to entrepreneurship, especially for businesses that might take place in communities that are considered hardest hit. So typically communities that are below 80% of the average median income. If programs are targeted at those communities, there's a little bit more leeway around the programs the type of programs you can have. So certainly that would be allowable. And also programs targeted towards industries that were considered hardest hit by the pandemic. So tourism, restaurants, bars, things like that. And I guess the spirit of this legislation is to really promote economic development and sustainability and solutions that are going to create resiliency within communities. So if a project kind of speaks to those overall goals, it would typically be allowable.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. We know that entrepreneurship is big here in the state of Michigan, as well as Metro Detroit, Pontiac, and a lot of entrepreneurs across the country have been hit significantly. If there are no other questions, what I'd like to do is to turn it back over to the mayor. In this particular area, if there are no other questions for Baker Tilly, I have to turn it back over to the mayor to introduce the next discussion point. Mayor?
Yes, and our next presenter, our guest panelist, I'm happy to introduce. I think this is the first time he's been on one of our Conversations with the Mayor series, Mark Lee, and that is Semino Scott. And Semino comes from a very important history in the nonprofit industry. Most recently, I'm very happy to have worked with him. He is the executive director for a group called Collective Impact. And I'm going to let him talk to you a little bit more about that. But basically, as Pontiac has progressed, we have now attracted the attention of some of the foundation community. Pontiac never had a foundation stars before. And so now they've come to the fore, and they have worked with us for about a year now, Semino, right? With grassroots, nonprofit leaders, elected officials, business leaders, to work to have a self-sustaining entity that the foundations can support. So Pontiac as much welcomes that. We've been working with them intensely. And Semino's here to talk about some of the discoveries, the data that this group has collected to say how cities can be thriving. What are the pillars that you can establish that are strategic priorities? And that may be similar to some of the strategic priorities we want to use the American Rescue Plan funding on. So Semino, I welcome you, and I know what you're going to tell us now is going to be very engaging. And I give you the floor so you can talk about those pillars.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Waterman. I'm delighted to be here. It is my first opportunity to serve on the panel. And just for the purpose of those that have not heard of the Pontiac Collective Impact Partnership, we were founded as a result of a group of regional funders. The Balmer Foundation, the Davison Foundation, the Wilson Foundation, the Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan, GM, Flagstar, a host of others really identified the city of Pontiac as a community of opportunity that they wanted to collectively invest in. And a number of them have participated in other collective impact initiatives in other states and other cities, and really thought that the timing was right to do something like that here in Pontiac. And so this group has been meeting for the better part of the year. The funders founded the Pontiac Collective Impact Partnership and started reaching out to leaders of grassroots organization, the mayor, members of her team, the local school district, the county government, our higher education institution partners, as well as our grassroots local leaders as well. And so it's about 35 members in all that have been meeting for about a year and a half. And those meetings really have revolved around what's in the best interest of the city of Pontiac, what are some potential outcomes that we can develop collectively and work on collectively to address to help improve the quality of life for Pontiac residents. And so we have landed on 2 areas of focus: thriving neighborhoods and a cradle to career education focus. I'll talk a little about our thriving neighborhoods focus today, which really highlights areas around safety, blight, housing stability, as well as parks and recs. And so we really are focused on making sure that our parks and recs are safe, are blight-free, that members of the community feel very confident walking in their neighborhoods, visiting our parks and recs. And also, we don't want to lose sight of the possibility of having more rec centers here in the city of Pontiac. And there's a lot of discussion around that, led by the mayor. And you know, as someone born and raised in the city of Pontiac, I'm honored, quite frankly, that the mayor of our city has spent a year and a half sitting down with grassroots stakeholders focused on developing a plan. And so I'm just really wanted to make sure that I highlighted that. And so what we have done in an effort to ensure that there's inclusion in this process is we've engaged the community in a number of different ways. First and foremost, we developed our community survey report, which really we surveyed about 250 members of the community. And we asked a simple question: what are some of the top 5 things that are important to you to improve the quality of life for Pontiac residents? And as you might imagine, some of the things that were important was that Pontiac residents want things to do in their community. They don't want to have to go to some of the surrounding communities to visit quality parks or restaurants or entertainment venues. They talked a lot also about making sure that safety was paramount. And so those are some of the areas in addition to housing stability, right? When you think about housing stability, it doesn't just impact the community, but it impacts the schools as well. We have a number of our people in the schools that move 2, 3, 4 times within not just the calendar year, but the academic year. So we want to make sure that we address issues around mobility and transportation, safety and blight, but also make sure that that's grounded in the voice of the community. And so what they have really uplifted as well is that they want employment opportunities and workforce training experiences for our youth and our adults as well. And so that's one of the areas that we're also looking at to ensure that Pontiac residents feel the quality of life here is consistent with what our neighbors in Bloomfield, in Rochester, and Auburn Hills feel as well. So again, we've been working on this for about a year and a half, and we are now at the implementation stage where we have transitioned from committees to strategic action teams. And the mayor is right at the table with us, so she can speak to this as well. And now we want to invite residents to the table to be a part of not just talking about what we can do, but helping us design it and implement it. And so we have monthly meetings around our strategic action teams or our community advisory council. And I want to encourage residents and stakeholders who are interested in learning more and being a part of it to visit our website at pontiaccollectiveimpact.org. Once again, that's pontiaccollectiveimpact.org. We'd love to hear your thoughts on ways that we can work collaboratively. And those of us that have been in the community long enough know that we've really been operating in silos for far too long. And that's one of the essence, and really it's captured in our name, collective impact. We can't do it alone. The mayor can't do it alone. It really is important that we have a grassroots effort to rebuild this community and make it what it once was and what it could be. And so I invite you once again to visit our website, find out more about us, learn about our community survey report that is published on our website, and get involved. Be a part of the solution and not the problem.
Samina Scott, thank you very much for your discussion, and good luck. Congratulations for the last year and a half of engaging the community, the mayor's office, executive staff, and the community. That this is certainly an important initiative. It's according to most recent U.S. Census data, the city of Pontiac has actually grown by 2,000 residents. Right. So it continues to attract people, it can continue to attract businesses, and so something like this is very important. Mayor Waterman, I want to segue back over to you. And for those of you, by the way, any questions briefly, again, drop them in the chat room. We have a few moments. And I want you to hang tight for the very end, because we're going to have a very special statement. I'm going to just, in radio business, it's called a tease. So I'm teasing you. So hang tight to the very end for a very special announcement/statement. But Mayor, I'm going to turn over to you for some other events that you wanted to discuss briefly.
Yes, and as I do that, I do want to thank Samino and Monique and Caitlin for being our first panelists. So we have two other I want to give brief statements but the three of you have already engendered so many questions. I know Matt's trying to leave some questions and answer time, because this is certainly a very engaging topic that has engendered a lot of thought. So, but I also have here, as Pontiac has progressed, we've had a number of partners, great partners. And one of those partners has been the Pontiac Regional Chamber of Commerce, which is headed by Dominique Head, who is also here. And as he wants to give a few thoughts about this ARP topic, and this is to remind people, this is just a kickoff. I have said that we'll have a number of these live, more than virtual, as we have different venues. So I want every citizen and Pontiac to have a chance to have input. We want to hear your voices. But this is just a kickoff to give people an idea of what that is. We'll be announcing the dates and venues that will start toward the end of September. And we'll be inviting, as I said, every citizen. So everybody has a chance to participate, as well as we'll be inviting all the elected officials. We want to hear what they have to say and have their input, as well as the candidates who are running for office, because it's important for us to compare and see how they would handle the jobs that they would seek our election to, are supporting their votes for. So we'll be inviting people to have that. And community engagement is a very important part of how we've proceeded. And I wanted Dominique Head, who to be introduced here and to talk about his viewpoint of some of the pillars for the ARP spending, eligible expenses. Dominique?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mark Lee. Thanks for having a few moments to speak. And thank you to Baker Tilly for kind of outlining what is eligible expense and what is not an eligible expense. So I think one of the great things we have is these types of meetings to come together. And, you know, we do have kind of a trajectory to 2024 to plan out and map what we're doing. I think that some of the key elements that exist for the city of Pontiac is the infrastructure in downtown and the small businesses located in downtown, and continuing to do the work that we've been doing with Mayor Waterman and her team around the bistro license and supporting amenities in the downtown to revitalize the downtown. So one of the biggest areas I think that we have as an opportunity is really to focus on our downtown and rebuilding our downtown and continuing the forward momentum that we have and investing in that forward momentum. I think the other thing we have is to invest in the local neighborhood businesses that exist. I know we have a really strong food network of purveyors who provide food, whether it's remote or locations like jalapenos or locations like Flavors of Jamaica. So I think there's some really great opportunities to support those businesses, especially as we talk about workforce development, right? So some of our businesses that are still kind of reeling from the COVID-19 and building a stronger workforce development pipeline for our tourism, but also for our amenities that exist to support our larger businesses like United Shore and General Motors within the community, and supporting those businesses and connecting. So I know the chamber has been working diligently to improve the situation where larger businesses and smaller enterprises in the community work cooperatively together, and also that we can support the small entrepreneurs within the neighborhood. So, when we look at it, I think there's three major points. One is the infrastructure of the city. The second is supporting small business owners. And then third is supporting the tourism that happens naturally with some of our longstanding members of the community, such as Erebus Entertainment and Crowfoot. So those are kind of the 3 points: is really supporting our tourism that happens in our community, supporting our small business owners from the neighborhoods and in the downtown, and then really supporting the infrastructure.
Dominique,
Thank you,
thank you.
Dominique.
If I could say one thing here real quick. Dominique was just on the radio with me. He did a wonderful job in the conference room with Mark Esley recently. I sent a link to the city this morning. If you want to hear the interview, I would encourage you to check it out. He did a phenomenal job talking for 25 to 30 minutes about what he's doing for the Pontiac as the executive director for the Pontiac Regional Chamber. All right, Mayor, back over to you.
Yes, we have many partners. Thank you, Dominique, and I'm sure we'll see you back on the trail as we continue these ARP town halls. As we move forward, there's one last panelist I want to have a word here as we wind down this presentation. But as we hear, we're going to do the town halls throughout the city. And then I'm proposing to council that council have a retreat so that we can present this data and these various projects so they can begin planning. It's nice to have money at your hand, but the planning and the disciplined use of how you spend it is the way we know that we get the most value from the money that has come to the city of Pontiac, as well as other municipalities. There are some proposals that we have just from talking to people and just from what we know with conversations with the public are very important issues. And I'm going to just touch upon those, and that may stimulate thought for other kinds of projects as we go to the other town halls. But one of them we just proposed to council was that, during the pandemic, we had first responders, of course, who met our health needs and safety needs, but also we had elements within city government that had to work and were not able to work from home or be quarantined or isolated. And that was our essential workers, which is our DPW department. So I did propose to council that we, like a lot of communities have, offer them bonuses for this hazard pay. And that is an eligible expense under ARP. So we have that salute to all the essential workers who came to work, no matter well, the rest of us could work remotely. They could not fix the traffic lights or fix the streets or repair the potholes at home. They had to come in every day and shovel the snow for our cities to stay safe. So that's one proposal we brought for ARP money. Another proposal, as we talk, is one of our strategic priorities was citizen relief. And that stabilization of our neighborhoods, as you heard from Samino Scott, is such an important pillar of moving a thriving city forward. And a lot of homeowners who need to have home repairs, which will also stabilize the neighborhood, brighten the neighborhoods. And right now, the home funds that are now operated by Oakland County are now loans. They used to be grants, but now they are loans. And so a lot of people can't qualify those. I would propose, and this would be an eligible expense in the ARP, to change those into grant funding. So if somebody needs to fix their porch, now's the time with winter coming on to fix your roof. If you need your storm sewers checked or cleaned, or your line, now's the time to do it in this fall. And citizens need this money now, as they're just not getting back to work or getting back to their businesses. So I'm going to propose that we set aside some money just for this citizen relief to help owners to be able to maintain their properties and to get back what they lost under this COVID period. So that's one thing. And one of the other things that was mentioned as I came aboard as mayor, one of the things I wanted to do was to get a youth center back for our children. Our youth are our best investment for our communities. And we did establish a center where the youth enjoyed marvelous programming. The council at first was going to purchase it, but didn't. And so now we're looking at where that youth center may be, maybe more than one. But one of the projects we put on the table is to restore the former Ewalt Center, which was a youth center. And we've got now a group who are building a capital campaign to see if we can't restore that again as a permanent center. So those are all kinds of things that can be eligible expenses. But as we say, the disciplined and smart way to handle the money that communities have got is to expand it by having ways in which we leverage the funds by other projects that are being done by the county and the state, which have way more money. And we have Matt Gibb from my economic development team, who's done some research on that. I would like him to say a few words about the thinking that goes into how we leverage funding to maybe turn our 37.7 million in collaboration with other units of government to expand it and maybe increase the value of that tenfold. Matt, would you like to give us a tutorial on that for a few minutes here?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So we've all heard some ending ideas and
Hey, Matt, I think we're having some challenges with your audio.
brainstorming around what eligible fees, and Baker Tilly, of course, did a great job of the broader outline. All right, well, maybe I can go somewhere else.
There you go.
If I go outside, it'll be too loud. So yeah, I mean, the question now is how does it get done? And what's the mechanism that you can really pursue these ideas? And one of the things that's very important on the how is how the city can leverage its strength into different aspects. And so it's looking at utilizing the money on the purpose of ARP, which is all about equity and inclusion. And the underlying theme of all of this should be equity and inclusion. And so understanding that on an equity basis, a lot of our businesses do not have access to capital because they don't have the asset base or the credit ratings. And so we would have the ability to leverage this money to create a loan guarantee fund or as the mayor suggested, basically a revolving loan fund in the form of a grant fund. This would allow us to leverage those outside resources and give businesses that wouldn't otherwise have the ability to access capital greater access to particular capital. The worst thing that the city can do is create a list of projects that would be simply a giveaway of money without leveraging the ability to draw in additional capital and allow these businesses and these residents and others to build up their credit standing within the city. And so those are some of the brief ideas. I know it's at the end of the chain here. I think the biggest comment I would have is to really have the city as they're meeting in these town halls, not just to focus on, like I saw some of the comments, can we put a bathroom in the park? Can we do those? Those are really good ideas, but really focus on an understanding of how that's going to be implemented, how the city could leverage its own resources to utilize this money, again, to create loan guarantees and credit guarantees and other ways of leveraging investment out of larger dollar amounts, particularly from the private sector. And what we've historically done is we've usually ceded the administration of that to other agencies like the county. If we do this correctly and we do it internally, we can turn this 37 million into 137 million and keep that within the city. So I want to stay a resource for the mayor and everyone else. And those are just some of my thoughts, Mark. Thanks.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it. Mayor, I'm going to turn over to you briefly before you give a statement. I'm going to give you an opportunity in a minute, but anything else very briefly before we wrap up?
So I just see so many questions here, Mark. I hope we have a chance to at least answer one or two. The good thing about it is this is just the kickoff. As we've said, we're going to have a number of these other town halls that everybody will have a chance to participate in. So some of the questions will be able to be answered at those town halls. But this is just a taste of what we want to do in the town halls. And I'm glad that it's engendered such interest and enthusiasm. What more exciting topic than we've got Monday, how do you want to spend it? So that seems we've hit upon a mother lode of ideas here that we want to expand upon. I thank you, Mark, for allowing us to have this conversation. And if we got time for a question or two, but I'll go ahead and in terms of your time, Mark, and just remind people about two other things that are upcoming that I want them to know about. One is that we are introducing something and launching it this Saturday, and that is at Hawthorne Park. We've installed a golf disc course from the other way around, disc golf. And it's actually where you play golf with this disc. And we're going to have a 9/11 Day memorial. We all know what the importance of 9/11. I'll start out with that. And then we're going to launch this disc golf tournament. It's going to be a scramble, so anybody can come, whether you know how to play or not. I've got my own disc here that they've been telling me how to throw, but they're going to be giving a tutorial there. So come, it's a lot of fun at our own Hawthorne Park, right off Telegraph. It starts at 9:30. We already have, I think, about 75 people signed up for a scramble. It's really fun from what I've seen. So come and participate. And this is just another one of the amenities that we're adding to Pontiac's lexicon of things that are fun to do in our parks. So that's this Saturday. We'll see you there at Hawthorne Park. And then remember Motorbella, which is starting 21st of September, the first 2 or 3 days are industry days for the press. And then after that, we'll be able to have the public days for people to participate. So with that, Mark, I just wanted to remind people of that. Thank you for participating. And lots and lots of questions. I don't know if there's one.
Well, we've got to a lot of the questions. We have gotten to a lot. We have gotten to a lot of the questions. We have a lot of comments that are coming through. So one final question, and this is just for the panelists. I mean, I'm sorry to everyone on board. Would you please make the town hall dates more prominent on the website? This is a comment from one of the participants.
Yes, they're not on the website yet. This is the kickoff today, the launch. And then we'll be circulating that because along with the venues, we're going to have at least one in every district as well as one specifically talking about how we lay the infrastructure to be a smart city. That's a topic in and of itself. And so those will be very engaging. I'm glad for all the people who have wanted to communicate about that, have your own ideas. So you'll have ample opportunity to express that. And then of course, we'll take that all to the council for them to derive a plan. And you know the deadline dates by which we have to do that to expend the resources that are coming to the city.
And as we wrap up, I would ask someone from the city to go scroll through the comments, the more comments and questions, and feel free to discuss amongst yourselves as a team. All right, a couple of things real quick, very quickly. You can tune in on September 19th. September 19th, the mayor and Andrea Trudeau from the Detroit Auto Dealers Association will be joining me at 12:30 on In the Conference with Mark S. Lee on 9:10 a.m. Superstation. We're going to be talking explicitly about Motorbella and the specific plans associated with that magnificent event that's being held in Pontiac this year. All right, as we wrap up, here we go. Many of you have asked a question, what's next for the mayor? We know that, obviously we're in October, I'm sorry, we're in September. So I want to give the mayor an opportunity to provide a statement about her future. Mayor, what is a statement that you'd like to share to the city of Pontiac about your future?
Well, it's very interesting about my future for a person who's had now my second career. Started as an ophthalmologist, still have a lot of patients who are around, an eye surgeon. Stepped into almost vicariously the politics because I wanted to start with building a new library for the city and end up being mayor. So now that I've served 2 terms and so many legacy projects, and I'm just grateful to all the people who have supported me throughout that and who are very happy that the city has moved forward in such a grand way. We've made so much progress in 8 years together. So they're asking me to contemplate what I do next, city-wise and otherwise. That's what's my next career, or do I just go and straight out into the sunset and sit by some beach? But that's not me. I've always been active in the community, always wanted to move things forward. So I'm sure there will be some situation. And people are asking in terms of the politics. what are my options? Am I going to write in again? Am I going to support one of the candidates? And what I've said is, I want the thing that's do the best for the city. We've had a great run together over 8 years, and I'm looking now to see what is the best way, who is the best candidate to turn over the opportunities for the city to advance. So as we have these town halls, we'll have a chance for the candidates to come and to express themselves and to see how they would handle that and whose hands we can best move the city forward. So that's all I'm going to say right now. I know that was a teaser, but it's been a great run for 8 years, 50-year resident. And I just want to see Pontiac continue to move forward. That's what I've served. I thank all the people who have said to me, thank you for getting the streetlights turned on in my neighborhood. Thank you for bringing the opportunities. Thank you for bringing so many jobs. There are other communities are talking about the lack of jobs, the good jobs. We have lots of good jobs coming to Pontiac, 8,000. So that's what I'm going to throw it back to you, Mark, and get me off the hook here
Right.
for what I'm going to do when I grow up. And right now, I'm just going to bask in all the great things that are coming to Pontiac. And I might announce that our next series for Conversations with the Mayor, October 13th, the second Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the return of retiree healthcare. That's equally an important legacy project. As I identify the legacy projects, it's been a great thrill to be able to have that happen during my term as mayor, that have been taken away by the emergency manager. And we're going to restore it to our retirees. And we're going to talk all about that, when that's going to happen, when people get their opt-out payments, and what's the next steps. So October 13th, same time, same station, right here. You're hearing it from me. And thank you, Mark, for being there with us.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much. And I always am saying, stay tuned. The story continues. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you for your patience, engaging conversation. Stay tuned in terms of what's next for Pontiac. And we appreciate all of you. Go out and make it a great day, make it a great week. Enjoy the beautiful weather that we have. And you can tune in to In the Conference Room with Mark Ashley every Sunday from 11 until 1 on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. Again, the mayor will be joining me on September 19th at 12:30 to talk about Motor Bella. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.